There are two areas that I focus on regularly: communication and money, because they're both areas of power, and they're both areas that traditionally people with developmental disabilities don't have access to, don't have the same access to. So I talk about it like this, especially for somebody who might communicate mostly with behavior and less with language. There's somebody who, in our system, again, we're all trying to do the right thing, but typically people are managed all day long to try to fit into the structures that we have, that process like I do. And so what happens oftentimes when I'm working with somebody with a really significant disability is it's helpful to think about them like the feral child. They have spent their life moving back into the woods because we are not reliable to standardize, give them in a standardized way what they need if they don't share our processing or communication strategies. So if I go like this, and Jen thinks it means I want my mom, and Joe thinks it's self-stim, and somebody else thinks I'm hungry, then every one of you is going to react differently to me. So that lack of standardization means I'm going to pull back because I'm going to take care of myself as much as I can. You guys are not that reliable. Now, we want to strategize how to get standardized, but also how to understand that if that person has had a lifetime of it, and I think about them like the feral child, if I'm going to bring something new, a new tool, then one, I want to be really efficient at it, because if I'm floundering, how much time does the feral child give me to try to get in and do something new? It has to be motivating, it has to be clear, it has to be available to them. So we're going to look at what is motivating to start with. Number one, I meet somebody and I want to know what they love the most. And we're going to connect the dots to that. Exposure, it's got to be around, the model's got to be around, like we talk about. So we say, I see it, so be it. If it's around me, I know that it's true. And then education, we want to look at person-driven tools, which help us shift, how do we get out of the way, essentially? How do we build a structure where you can rely on yourself more than you rely on me, because we've got reference tools built in. The doctor who worked with Helen Keller said to Annie Sullivan, her teacher, if a house collapsed in on a child, all of us would come running with pitchforks and shovels, and no one would stop digging until the child was found. And that's our task here, to keep digging until we find the child. And he was talking about Helen Keller. I think that's what we do for a living. I think with the systemic rubble that was built, by people without disabilities for people with disabilities, have built in some structures that are problematic. And that rubble, I have to recognize what that is to help shift it. When I ask people, what do you think is the most common challenge for students with disabilities after high school, there's a real variety of answers. Here's the experience: self-advocacy. I don't know how to ask for what I need. I don't know how to educate you about what I need. I'm pretty much going to be thrown into a new system, and now I'm going to use behavior or communication or whatever I have. When I work with individuals with significant disabilities in particular, I see there are two categories of overdeveloped personality traits. And we all have all personality traits and can, go, move on the spectrum of all kinds of emotions during a day and behaviors during a day. But these two things are overdeveloped. As a communication specialist, I can tell you that what I see more often than anything else is somebody who is now passive and going along and smiling all the time, because that's all there is. I'm going to follow you. The other is, if you come near me with anything, I'm going to kill you with my eyelash if I can. Get out. Like, I'm going to be a fighter. Now, both of those are reactions to extreme lack of control. So when you're talking about marginalization, this is the direct cause of a lack of self-advocacy and an overdevelopment of those two other strategies.